Hi, I'm Emily Hayes, senior writer with The Pink Sheet. I'm here at the Biotech Showcase, interviewing presenting companies. And here with me today is Arthur Tinkelenberg, and he's with Enumeral, a Cambridge, Massachusetts biotech. Art, is this your first time at the Biotech Showcase?
No, actually it's my second time. I presented here last year, 2015.
And can you tell us a little bit about Enumeral? What's special about your technology?
Sure. Enumeral is a immuno-oncology company spun out of Harvard and MIT. We went public a year and a half ago, and we are developing a novel platform for interrogating the immune system using human-derived samples to further understand how immune cells can control cancer.
And so what's different from what you're offering versus what's out there already? I understand that you're deeply interested in the PD-1 inhibitors, but there are already very well-established PD-1 inhibitors.
Yeah. The good news is that PD-1 is a validated target, and we know this because Keytruda and Opdivo both are approved for treating melanoma, lung cancer, and some other cancers. The bad news is that we don't very well understand their mechanisms of action, and in aggregate they treat about 20% of patients. So there's a large unmet medical need to treat those patients that don't respond. How we approach the problem that's a little bit different than how other companies approach it, we use our platform to get an understanding and high resolution of the human immune system in tumor tissues. And what makes that different is that that's actually pretty hard to do. And so most companies don't even try. And actually that underlies the basis of our collaboration with Merck, which is one of the leading immuno-oncology pharmaceutical companies. So they were attracted to working with us with our platform because of the insights we could provide.
And can you talk in a little greater depth about that? How would that fit with what they already have in their pipeline?
There's some things I can say and some things I can't say about that relationship.
Let's hear the ones you can't say first.
Yeah, I almost answered that question. So to put it in the abstract, fundamentally leaders in the field understand that there's a lot they don't know. And so part of the strategy for most companies in the space is to look at other technologies and other product candidates for ways to boost the response rate across patients that currently don't respond or who respond poorly. So fundamentally the questions we're asking together in our partnership have to do with understanding the relevant protein targets that the field thinks are relevant targets in cells taken from human patients, intent to treat patients, understand those cell types and those protein targets to come up with an appreciation of whether or not those targets make sense to pursue further. If I could analogize, a lot of the work that gets done to prove a drug target is worth pursuing gets done in rodent models. And it's widely appreciated that mice are not human. I mean, it sounds simplistic. You would agree with me if I made that statement. And so when it comes to immunology, it's almost even worse than some other areas of metabolism. Mice really just don't have the same kind of immune system. So predicting how an immunomodulatory therapy is going to work using a mouse just doesn't work very well. So being able to look at that question in a human sample early in development could potentially save time and money. And that's really the basis of the partnership.
And are you focusing on colon cancer in particular?
Well, so colon cancer is an area of interest to us. It was an early part of our efforts as a business. We actually were funded by the NCI in a phase 1 contract to develop methods for understanding the kinds of immune cells that take up residence in colon cancer tissue. It's a poorly understood disease, and the majority of human patients with colon cancer just don't have a good immune response. And so the goal here is to really fully characterize what cell types are there and can we target them. Our lead program in the company today, which is not partnered with Merck, is actually in lung cancer. And there we're developing our differentiated PD-1 antagonist. It's a molecule that has some enhanced properties. It seems to have an enhancing effect on T-cell function. And the primary cells that are responding to Keytruda and other PD-1 antagonists are thought to be T-cells. And what's thought to happen is that these antibody drugs prevent the tumor cells from shutting down the T-cell. So that by administering the drug, you essentially make that T-cell recognize the tumor and kill it. But that's only part of the story, because these therapies have a longer lasting effect than what would be implied by the presence of the drug, because the drug does go away, and yet the effect is durable. So we looked at this and said, well, what else could these drugs be doing to the immune system? And so our fundamental thesis was immune modulation, especially through checkpoint blockade, must generate a longer lasting effect than just what happens with the T cell at the tumor cell in the tumor. And it's widely recognized that immune cells do not exist in a vacuum. They actually talk to each other and they talk to other kinds of cells in the immune system. So we took advantage of that and said, look, what if we could find a novel antibody that actually stimulates that crosstalk to other parts of the immune system? And that's what we think we've discovered. And so we think it has a more profound effect on downstream effector cells in the immune system, which we're hopeful will lead to a higher response rate and potentially even the ability to treat prior PD-1 therapy failure. And that's the biggest market.
And so what are your goals for the next few years in terms of your clinical targets, getting things through various phases of clinical development?
Good question. We're right now working towards preparing our first IND for our lead program, which is our differentiated PD-1 molecule. And the goal would be to get that into a clinical trial in 2017 in a patient population that's prior failure, that has been treated with but did not respond to the existing approved medicines. And that's really the near-term goal. And if we can get that trial done in 2017, that data would read out next year if we can get that started. So that's really the most important goal for us.
And can you comment on the MD Anderson partnership that you announced today?
Sure. So we are, like a lot of biotech companies, we're an emerging company. We have certain expertise in-house. We have a platform that gives us a lot of leverage in finding these novel differentiated antibodies, measuring in high resolution the immune system in human samples. But one thing we don't have today is downstream clinical development expertise and infrastructure. And this relationship with MD Anderson is a great synergy for us because we bring to them antibody discovery platform and immune profiling, and they bring a deep clinical infrastructure and translational infrastructure, as well as world-leading expertise to identify both novel targets as well as design in the right way clinical trials, which is not trivial in this space because we're talking about a new area of therapy. So it's still early days in fully understanding how these drugs work, what the right clinical approach is. So for us, this is just a fantastic opportunity.
And I guess would that broaden the number of checkpoint inhibitors that you could potentially be working with?
Potentially. We have not yet disclosed the targets we'll be pursuing together. But the benefit of it for us is not just economic, it's also that we are going to be able to go into some novel targets, potentially.
And what is your funding situation and what are your goals for this particular meeting in terms of financing and investment?
Correct. Yeah, so we're out here at Biotech Showcase and attending many meetings around this conference, both with potential investors as well as with potential corporate partners. And so, you know, those kinds of conversations are always ongoing. We have a number of relationships that we had established in prior partnerships that we had with companies like Novartis and Janssen. And so we continue to be in conversations with multiple corporate partners. And so, you know, biotech companies often are raising money. For us, what's important is to make sure we have the capital to continue to pursue the programs we do have. And that could be through capital raises, but it could also be through partnerships. And so, so a key goal for us here is to continue to get our visibility up. We're still a young company. We're still relatively unknown, so for us, Biotech Showcase is critical just to continue to bring visibility to the story.
Mm-hmm. And how can viewers find out more about your company?
Start with the website, Enumeral.com. We have a lot of information there, and we continue to put presentations there from our various conferences that we attend and updates to our programs, and I think that would be the best way. And obviously, they can always reach out.
Okay, thank you, Art.
Thank you, Emily.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.